Hey everyone, Duke here, and today we're talking about how to farm Legendary Shards, Glimmer, and Enhancement Cores in Season of the Witch. With the changes to weapon leveling this season, Glimmer and Enhancement Cores are more useful than ever, and Legendary Shards are always a hot commodity, so let's talk about them all. If you aren't already aware, this season Bungie added an update that allows us to upgrade crafted weapons infinitely using just Glimmer and Enhancement Cores. To go from level 1 to level 17, which will unlock all possible enhanced perks, it's going to cost you about 68,000 Glimmer and 41 Enhancement Cores per weapon. Let's start with talking about Glimmer farming. Heroic public events give huge amounts of Glimmer on completion, with 12,500 Glimmer coming from the chest completion reward at the end. Pair this with the Glimmer that you'll get just from defeating enemies during the public event for extremely quick farming. And not only that, but also our Ghost has a set of Glimmer mods which allows for up to a 65% increase to Glimmer that you'll receive, which can be a huge boost to quickly recoup Glimmer after use, especially due to the 250k Glimmer cap on Glimmer storage. Rahul in the Tower also has multiple ways to directly buy Glimmer from, assuming you have the extra materials to do so. Excess Legendary Shards, Dark Fragments, Phantasmal Fragments, and Here Always pieces can be spent here to acquire Instant Glimmer, along with Resonant and Harmonic Alloys, as both of these materials were deprecated this season and have no other uses. Also, if you're like me and still have Rainmakers in your inventory, these can be dismantled at any time for 3,000 Glimmer each. And if you still have huge stacks of Sunset Planetary materials, Rahul's final page still allows you to use these for Glimmer as well. There's also a few weekly bounties from the Cosmodrome at Shah Han that can be completed for some extra Glimmer as well. And of course, just doing anything and everything in the game is going to give you Glimmer from defeating enemies, so keep that in mind, and if you don't really want to do anything specific for the Glimmer farming, some of these other farms for Legendary Shards and Enhancement Cores may be your ticket. Also note that if you are ever at the Glimmer cap of 250,000 and want an easy way to store more, you can buy Other Side Sparrows or Zavala's Authority ships to store in your vault or on your characters. These can cost 7,500 Glimmer and 5 Legendary Shards each, and will give you 5,000 Glimmer and 5 Legendary Shards back when you dismantle them. This is a net loss, but it does allow you to use some of your vault space or character space for some quick access Glimmer later when you need it. Of course, if you have some of these other materials saved up or are just constantly using up your Glimmer, this tip may not be needed, but saving some extra Glimmer for later is an extremely useful tool to get around that pesky 250k cap, now more than ever with the increase in extremely helpful uses for Glimmer. Next, let's talk about Legendary Shards. First, I'd recommend making sure to get to level 20 on the Season Pass, as this is going to give you an additional Legendary Shard whenever you dismantle Legendary or Exotic gear. One Legendary Shard is not going to sound like a lot right now, but this adds up a ton over the thousands of dismantles that you're going to do in a given season. Speaking of the Battle Pass, there's also a total of 250 Legendary Shards all in the first 50 levels of the pass, which can help get you started a little bit at the beginning of any season. A huge tip is before farming any activities at all, make sure to visit the Helm and pick up the 2 artifacts from the last 2 seasons at the War Table and at the Sonar Station. By having these 2 artifacts in your inventory, you'll have the chance at both Defiant and Deep engrams, on top of the normal Witches engrams you get this season when completing any and all activities. This is a hugely important tip, as without these 2 artifacts, you don't have this chance at all to get these engrams, and these can add up to an additional potentially 6 engrams from an activity, and of course it's not guaranteed, but you'll definitely get quite a few extra drops over the long run and as you do more and more activities. Do note that these engrams stack at up to 99, so make sure to use them before you go any higher than that. I mentioned this as a farm for Solstice from last season, but it's actually even a little bit better this season. This farm does require at least one other person, and you're going to want to get to the final checkpoint in the first contact mission, and then switch characters to save the checkpoint. Reload on your teammate, and then finish the last 60 seconds or so of the mission. This is going to give you a chance at all of the different seasonal engrams, and can be repeated infinitely. Even many seasons after it's come out, a great activity for farming Legendary Shards is Dares of Eternity. You're going to get a number of Legendary drops from the final chest, along with potential Legendary drops from all the enemies throughout. And not only that, but if you are lucky enough to get the Lightning Round, you can get up to an additional 3 chests at the end that will be filled with more Legendary drops. And to go even one step further, you can complete some of these Star Horse bounties while you're doing these to get Paraversal Hulls, which will give you even additional gear as well as extra treasure keys, which can all be used in Xur's treasure hoard to open the chest there for weapons that again, either you're going to keep or break down for even more legendary shards. Our core activities of Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible that most people will be playing for seasonal challenges and maybe some exotics are also a great way to get some legendary drops and some legendary shards directly from completing these activities. Do note that you're going to want to make use of the Prosperity Ghost mods when completing these activities, as this is going to give you an additional chance at legendary drops from each of these individual activities, as make sure you're using the correct one for the correct activity. Nightfalls specifically are another great way to get some extra drops, but especially either during double Nightfall loot weeks or double Strike Reputation weeks, that's going to make it even better. And if there is double Crucible or double Gambit Reputation, that again is going to make those activities even better, as you're going to be able to rank through their respective vendors faster, and you get those additional rewards and engrams as you level up through the Reputation tracks. The two new seasonal activities for Season of the Witch, Savathûn Spire and Altars of Summoning, are also good ways to farm some shards. These are activities that you're going to want to run anyway, as they're of course new and just interesting and fun to do, a part of many seasonal challenges, seasonal reputation, as well as some quests, and can give a number of direct drops, as well as seasonal engrams as outlined earlier. The enemy density in these activities is also quite high, which gives more chances at drops from enemies, as well as more Glimmer. And also specifically if doing Savathûn Spire, don't forget to focus on killing the special Shrieker in the boss room to get some additional immediate drops to get yourself some more easy shards. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but one last thing to consider is upgrade modules. These cost 10 legendary shards as well as 5,000 Glimmer and an enhancement core, all the materials we're talking about in this video each, and can easily run you dry of these materials if you're infusing things constantly. With power no longer increasing every season, many longer-term players are probably already at the power cap and are saving a bunch of these materials by not needing to infuse very much, but if you're either a newer or returning player, just keep this in mind and focus on only infusing when you really need to, or at least just don't do it every single drop you're getting to help yourself save quite a few of these materials in the long run. And lastly, we have enhancement cores. Banshee bounties are going to be your best and most straightforward and consistent way to farm these, with a number of bounties you can do each day on every character, and you can do these in pretty much any activity. As with Glimmer and Legendary Shards, there's also ghost mods called Lesser Core Harvest, which can help acquire more of these in Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible activities. You're also going to get a number of cores from various vendor ranks, as well as potentially getting an extra core with each engram you pull from these vendors. If you're in a clan, rank 4 of the clan perks will give additional enhancement cores when completing clan vendor bounties from Hawthorne. Once again, Nightfalls are going to be a nice way to get some enhancement cores as well as enhancement prisms, which can also be used for more cores, as we'll explain in a second, as well as exotics and even ascendant shards at some of the highest level Nightfalls. Lost sectors are another great way to farm some enhancement cores and prisms, especially if there's some specific exotics that you're going to want to farm from them anyway. Do note though that all of these lost sectors are definitely not created equal in terms of either length or difficulty or both, so I would not advise farming on days that have some of the longer ones. You can also buy up to 5 cores each day from Rahul for 30 legendary shards each, but honestly this is pretty expensive for just a single enhancement core, and I'd pretty much never recommend doing this unless you really just need 1 or 2 and don't want to do anything else. One of the best ways to get enhancement cores is actually by using enhancement prisms. As enhancement prisms cap at 100, any extra prisms that we would get can end up being wasted, but there is a strategy to convert prisms to cores at a low cost. First, you're going to want to buy a piece of blue armor from collections. Then upgrade it to 8 energy by using 3 cores in a prism, and then dismantling it will give you 6 cores in return, effectively turning 1 prism and a little bit of glimmer and turning that into 3 enhancement cores. Do note that as of this season, enhancement prisms now stack up to 100, no longer 50, so you can hold more, but in return, excess prisms as well as ascendant shards are no longer going to go to your postmasters. So taking advantage of this trick will allow you to get the most out of your playtime and ensure you don't lose out on these easy extra cores. Finally, if you still happen to have any finest matter weaves in your inventory, you can now use these to just directly get 1 enhancement core each. These no longer drop in the game, instead just giving extra cores directly, but if you were hoarding a bunch of these because they were annoying to use and get rid of before, this is another way to get some extra cores that you may not know that you had. I hope this video guide on 3 of the most important materials in the game was helpful, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.